I covered $12,400 for my parents' backyard remodel. But my aunt called me after. "Oh, by the way, the party's just immediate family. Hope you understand." My dad texted, "Don't be dramatic." So I didn't dramatize. I just canceled every contractor payment and froze the landscaping funds. The next day, I had 49 missed calls and my mom at my door yelling my name. I let her scream, then opened the door, and then. At that moment, I decided I was done being convenient. Done playing the role of the reliable son, the one who always shows up, pays up, shuts up. I wasn't going to be their safety net anymore. Not after what they pulled. It all started with a call from my dad in early April. He asked if I could help with some renovations in their backyard, new patio, upgraded grill area, maybe even a little fire pit for family gatherings. I said sure. Honestly, I liked the idea of giving back to them. They helped me through college, and I was finally in a good financial place. I told them I'd take care of it. The budget landed at $12,400, and I transferred the first payments to the landscaping company 2 days later. It felt good. I was even picking out stone samples and helping the designer with layout plans. My dad texted pictures of the progress every other day. My mom called to say how excited she was for the big party in June, a get-together with all the cousins, uncles, and friends. I was really into it. Until I got a call from my aunt. She started with some small talk and then just dropped it like it was nothing. "By the way, the party will be for immediate family only. I hope you understand." I didn't understand. I wasn't invited. I didn't say anything. Just thanked her and hung up. 10 minutes later, I messaged my dad. I asked if it was true. He replied with just 3 words. "Don't be dramatic." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not because I wasn't invited, but because they didn't even think I'd care. They thought I was dumb enough to drop over 12 grand into a party space I wouldn't even be welcome to enjoy. So I didn't reply to my dad. I just got to work. Called the landscaping company, canceled all pending payments, and told them to stop all work immediately. Froze the remaining funds and blocked any new transactions from my renovation account. That was Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, I had 49 missed calls. By noon, someone was pounding on my front door like it was the police. I didn't move. Then I heard her voice. My mom shouting my name like I burned the house down. She didn't knock, she yelled nonstop for over a minute. Then I opened the door. She looked half out of her mind. Hair a mess, makeup smudged, phone still in her hand. She pushed past me and walked in like she owned the place. Didn't even ask. First thing she said, "You embarrassed your father." I just laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe she was serious. I told her I didn't want to pay for a backyard meant to host a party I wasn't invited to. She didn't like that. Said it wasn't about the party, it was about family, and that I was being selfish. I asked her why I wasn't considered immediate family then. She deflected. Kept talking in circles. Eventually, she threatened me. Not subtly either. Told me I'd regret this and that. "You don't turn your back on blood." Then she stormed out. I figured that was the end of it. I had no idea how far they were willing to go. The silence after my mom's visit was suspicious. 2 full days without a call, not a peep from my dad, not even one of those guilt-laced texts he usually sends when they think I've overreacted. I almost started to think they were going to let it go. That maybe, just maybe, they understood I'd had enough. Then Friday came. It started like any other day. I was working from home, running through reports on a Zoom call when I heard a noise from outside. At first, I thought it was thunder. Then a second sound came, sharper, like metal on metal. My stomach dropped. I muted the call and stood up. Then came the sound of glass shattering. I ran to the window and just stared. My mom was in the driveway. In broad daylight. Holding a landscaping brick. One of my bricks from their backyard. She was screaming, winding up like she was pitching in the major leagues, and then, boom, hurled the brick straight at my car windshield. The glass spiderwebbed instantly. My dad was standing behind her like a statue, arms crossed, just watching. I thought I was hallucinating. Before I could get outside, she'd picked up a thick branch, something from my own yard, and started swinging at my car like it had insulted her personally. First the side mirror, then the hood. I yelled, but she didn't stop. Didn't even pause. She just kept shouting about how I betrayed the family, about how I disrespected her house, and how this was all because I thought I was better than everyone now. She actually said that while destroying my car. I didn't even try to stop her physically. I was too stunned. My dad finally moved when she reached back for another swing, grabbed her arm, and pulled her away like it was nothing more than an argument over dinner. They didn't apologize. Didn't even look at me. They walked back to their car like it was just another Friday chore. I stood in my front yard staring at the wreckage. My windshield was smashed to hell. The mirror was dangling by a wire. Dents across the hood. Bits of glass and bark everywhere. I called the police. Filed a report right there. Showed them the security footage from my doorbell cam. One of the officers just shook his head and said, "You're pressing charges, right?" Damn right I was. That night I called a lawyer. Told him everything. Every cent I'd paid for that renovation, the missed calls, the party, the threats, and now this. He didn't hesitate. Told me we'd be filing a restraining order first thing Monday morning, and we'd open a civil suit immediately after, for destruction of property, emotional distress, and reimbursement of the $12,400 plus legal fees. He told me I had a hell of a case. I sat alone that night, just replaying the scene over and over in my head. My own mom, throwing bricks at my car because I stopped letting them use me. My dad, standing there like a stranger. There was no going back after that. That wasn't just a bad argument. That was a line being crossed so far it couldn't even be seen anymore. The next day, my dad texted me. One sentence. "We should talk this out like adults." I stared at it for a while. Didn't respond. The time for talking was long gone. He stood there and let her destroy my car. Let her come to my house and act like a lunatic. I didn't respond to my mom at all. I didn't even block her. I wanted her to see the silence. Feel it. No, it wasn't just a tantrum or a phase. She thought she could guilt me back into being their safety net. She had no idea what was coming next. Monday morning, I sat across from my lawyer in a quiet office that smelled like paper and stale coffee. I handed him a flash drive with all the doorbell footage, printed screenshots of text messages, and the police report. He didn't even flinch. Just said, "This is going to be very straightforward," and started typing. First came the request for a restraining order against my mother. Immediate family or not, what she did wasn't just unhinged, it was criminal. The footage clearly showed her walking up my driveway with a landscaping brick, screaming, smashing my windshield, then going at my car with a thick branch. My dad just stood behind her, hands in his pockets, like it was completely normal behavior. Then we moved on to the lawsuit. We filed for damages to my car, $3,100, verified by 2 body shops. We included the full $12,400 I'd already paid for the backyard renovations, since the work was cancelled halfway through. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to hit back harder. We added $10,000 for emotional distress and harassment. Another $6,000 for legal fees. My lawyer even considered adding punitive damages, but we held off for now. When he handed me the total figure, it was $31,500. He looked at me and said, "This isn't about the money anymore, is it?" He was right. It was about principle now. It was about letting them know I wasn't theirs to use anymore. The papers were served that Thursday. I waited. Not for an apology, because I knew better. I waited for the chaos. And it came. My phone started buzzing within an hour. First my dad, 5 missed calls in 10 minutes. Then a series of long, rambling voicemails from my mom, which I didn't even bother listening to. Then came the unknown numbers. I picked one up, thinking it might be someone official. It was my cousin Marla. "What the hell is going on?" she asked. I told her everything. Briefly. The party, the backyard, the call from my aunt, the brick, the car, the lawsuit. There was silence on the other end. Then she said, "Send me the video." So I did. And not just to her. I sent it to 5 of my cousins, the ones I was closest to, the ones who weren't at that party either. No commentary. Just, "Thought you should see this." The reactions came fast. Marla messaged back, "What the F asterisk asterisk asterisk? I can't believe Uncle Tom just stood there." Brandon, my cousin in Texas, wrote, "That woman has lost her mind. I'm with you, man. 100%. Even my mom's older sister, Cheryl, called me. She sounded tired. She said she'd been worried about my mom for years but thought it was just her being emotional. After seeing the video, she admitted it had gone way past emotional. It was dangerous. She told me to keep my distance and promised she'd call the rest of the extended family and let them know what really happened. Only one person didn't respond. My aunt. The same one who called me with that fake sweet voice to say the party was for immediate family only. I hadn't forgotten that moment. It was the spark that started this whole fire. Then came the kicker. My lawyer got a letter from my mom's attorney. They offered to settle everything amicably. Their version of amicably was that I'd drop the restraining order, dismiss the lawsuit, and everyone would move on. They didn't even offer to pay damages. They thought I'd be intimidated. That I'd cave under pressure like I always used to. I told my lawyer to reject the offer. No negotiation. No settlement. Let it go to court. That night, my dad texted me again. We should talk this out like adults. I stared at the message. This from the man who stood there while his wife smashed my car. The man who didn't call the next day to check on me, only when legal papers landed on his porch. I didn't respond. The silence felt powerful. After years of being talked over, manipulated, guilt-tripped, I realized silence was my best defense. My mom could scream, my dad could beg, and my aunt could pretend none of this was her fault, but I wasn't letting up. The old Alex would have called the family and tried to make peace. That guy was gone. It had been almost a week since the lawsuit was filed, and the silence from my parents was finally starting to feel like peace. I could breathe. No phone calls, no unexpected knocks on my door, no chaos. For the first time in months, I actually slept through the night. Then Saturday happened. I had just come back from the grocery store. I parked in the driveway, stepped out with 2 bags of frozen stuff, and saw a car pull up across the street. My dad was in the driver's seat. My mom was with him. I stood still. She stepped out first. I barely had time to react. She didn't say a word. Just walked across the street, reached into a canvas bag she had with her, and pulled out another landscaping brick. A real one. Same type that was used in their backyard project. She hurled it at my car. Again. This time it hit the back window and cracked it clean through. I dropped my groceries and ran back inside. Locked the door. Called the police immediately. While I was on the phone, I peeked through the blinds. My dad had gotten out of the car. He was holding something, a wooden broomstick or maybe a shovel handle. He walked over and swung it at the driver's side door. Once. Twice. Then my mom joined in. They didn't just want to send a message this time. They wanted to cause real damage. It was surreal. Like watching strangers destroy my property. And somehow, even more terrifying because they weren't strangers. They were my parents. The cops arrived in 7 minutes. 7 minutes of destruction. When the officers pulled up, my mom was mid-swing with a second brick, and my dad had already dented both side doors. The police shouted, drew them apart, and handcuffed both of them right there in my driveway. My neighbors were outside by then. Cameras out. A few kids across the street filming like it was entertainment. I gave my statement. Showed the footage again. This time, the damage wasn't just cosmetic. My car was undrivable. One officer looked at the wreckage, then looked at me and said, "This kind of behavior doesn't come out of nowhere." I told him it actually did. That night I called my lawyer. He was stunned. Said we now had grounds for criminal charges in addition to the civil suit. He told me to document everything, every repair bill, every statement, every message. The next day, the restraining order was expedited. My parents were formally served while still in holding. My mom left me 2 voicemails after she got out. Screaming. Calling me a traitor. Telling me that I ruined her life. I didn't respond. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. And then I made another decision. I asked my lawyer to include a psychological evaluation request in the case. Not for me, for her. Because I needed the court to see what I'd been dealing with. I needed something official to protect me if she ever came near me again. After that, I stopped talking to my mother completely. For weeks. The only contact I had was through my dad, and even that was barely civil. He tried to play mediator. Said things like, "She didn't mean it," and "We were just overwhelmed." I told him I didn't care. She threw bricks at my car. Twice. She showed up at my house and attacked my property, again. There was no excuse for that. And the worst part was, she wasn't even sorry. She still thought she was right. The rest of the family? Almost all of them took my side after seeing the second incident. A few told me to be merciful, but most were just shocked she'd gone that far. My aunt didn't say a word. Not publicly, not to me. I knew she was hiding. Knew she was the one who lit the match, and then stepped back to watch the fire. She wasn't going to stay quiet forever. But when she finally spoke up, I wasn't ready for what she had to say. 2 weeks after my parents were arrested in my driveway, the silence returned. It felt different this time, like something was simmering under the surface. My dad stopped texting. My mom hadn't called since the voicemails, and even the cousins who had been loudly on my side got quiet. That's when I found out there had been a family meeting. A cousin of mine, Zach, who'd supported me from day one, called and said he was sorry for not telling me earlier, but most of the family had been invited to a dinner at my aunt's house. The one who made the original call about the party. The one who hadn't said a word to me since this all began. Apparently, my aunt stood up at the table, holding a manila folder, and announced she was going to clear the air once and for all. According to Zach, she went on some bizarre rant about how I was manipulating everyone, how I'd been planning to sue the family for months, and even said she had proof that I'd planned the whole backyard cancellation as some sort of scheme. Then she passed around photocopies of texts. Except they weren't mine. They were edited screenshots, messages I had supposedly sent to a friend, bragging about how I was going to make them pay for everything. How I hated my parents, and was done pretending to be the good son. The timestamps were off, and some were so absurd anyone with a brain could have told they were fake. But people wanted to believe them. I didn't even know she had the nerve to fake evidence until Zach sent me a photo of one of the pages. I sat there staring at my phone, trying to figure out who would even go to this level. Then I realized, this wasn't just about my mom anymore. This was my aunt. She was scared. Not for my parents, but for herself. Because here's the thing I haven't mentioned yet. I had been paying for her daughter's college books for 2 semesters. Quietly. Without telling anyone. Because her husband lost his job and I felt bad. And the payments? They went through the same account I'd used for the backyard project. She knew that if I cut that off, if I told the family how much I'd done for her, the whole image she had of being the family glue would crumble. So instead, she went on the offensive. She tried to rewrite the story. And people bought it. Some cousins messaged me asking if it was true. One even asked, "Did you really say you hated your parents?" That's when I lost it. I went online and posted the real texts. The call logs. The police reports. The car damage estimates. I blurred names, didn't accuse anyone directly. Just posted the facts. Then I dropped the kicker. Screenshots of the bank statements showing the payments I'd made for her daughter's tuition materials. With her name attached. Clear as day. The post didn't go viral, but it spread fast enough. Within hours, I started getting messages. Apologies. Confessions. One of my cousins said my aunt left the family group chat the moment the post went live. But that wasn't the unexpected part. 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a note from my aunt. It said, "You think you've won. But you've just declared war on the wrong person." There was no signature. Just a photo tucked inside the envelope. A photo of me. Standing in my front yard. Taken from across the street. The photo shook me more than I wanted to admit. I stared at it for a long time, longer than made sense. It was me in my front yard, holding a bag of takeout, caught mid-step. From the angle, it had been taken from inside a car parked across the street. My first thought was, when? Then I realized it didn't matter. Someone had been watching me. I handed everything over to my lawyer. The note, the photo, the envelope. He didn't say much, just told me this was no longer just a civil matter. He sent a copy to the police and quietly suggested I consider installing cameras around the house, not just a doorbell, but full coverage. So I did. In the meantime, the court granted a permanent restraining order against my mom. My dad wasn't included, but he hadn't come near me since the brick incident. I suspect he wasn't staying away out of guilt, but because he couldn't deal with what his wife and sister had started. The lawsuit moved quickly. With the evidence so stacked in my favor, The judge ordered my mother to pay full damages. The emotional distress amount was reduced slightly, but the total payout still landed over $25,000. She appealed. She lost. I didn't even show up to the final hearing. My lawyer handled everything. I hadn't spoken a word to my mother since the day she was handcuffed in my driveway. Not one word. I kept communication with my dad short and transactional. Cousins still messaged me now and then, some trying to piece things together, some still picking sides, but I didn't engage. I didn't need validation. I'd stopped being convenient, and everything around me burned. But for the first time in my life, I felt free. Then, just when things felt like they were finally over, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a single sentence. "Look under your doormat." I thought it was a prank at first, but something told me to check. I walked to the door, lifted the mat, and found a flash drive in a Ziploc bag. No note. No explanation. I brought it inside and plugged it in using a spare laptop I didn't use anymore. There were 3 files. Each one was labeled with a date. All recent. I opened the first. It was a video. Grainy footage. Someone filming from behind bushes. My living room window, barely visible through the leaves. You couldn't see much, just light and movement, but it was definitely my house. I opened the second video. It was me again. In my driveway. Taking out the trash at night. And the third? My bedroom window. From the backyard. That's when I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. This wasn't just a family drama anymore. This was something else. Something worse. And someone was still watching me. It's been 2 months since I found that flash drive under my doormat. I've moved twice since then. The first time was reactionary. I packed in a weekend and left my old house behind. I didn't tell anyone except my lawyer and one friend I trusted completely. I installed a security system that could make a government bunker jealous. I told myself I just needed time, space, and distance from the insanity. But after I moved, the paranoia didn't go away. I kept imagining shadows that weren't there. Every car parked too long across the street felt suspicious. I jumped at doorbells and triple-checked locks before bed. I hated feeling like that, so I moved again, this time to a gated complex with on-site security and cameras on every corner. And now, it's finally over. About 2 months ago, the police followed a tip tied to an unrelated harassment case and found a laptop belonging to a man who worked as a freelance investigator. It turns out my aunt, her, had hired him to keep an eye on me. Under the table. She never used her name directly, paid in cash, used burner phones. But he kept files. Notes. Photos. Payment records. Including copies of the same 3 videos I found on that flash drive. She denied everything. Swore up and down she had nothing to do with it. But the paper trail was enough. The police couldn't charge her criminally, but my lawyer filed a restraining order against her too, and this time, it stuck. She's not allowed within 500 feet of me or any of my property. She tried to contest it. She lost. A few weeks after that, I got a letter. Official, through her lawyer. It was full of vague language about misunderstandings and family tensions. No apology. Just a half-hearted attempt to save face in case I ever went public. I didn't respond. My mom has gone silent. I think the financial judgment crushed her more than she'll ever admit. My dad and I exchanged one final message. I told him I wish things had been different, but I was done pretending we still had a relationship. He replied with, "I understand." And that was it. Since then, I've started therapy. I sleep better. I don't check over my shoulder anymore. I'm rebuilding, slowly, and finally focusing on my own life, not theirs. And in case you're wondering, I never got a refund for the backyard renovations. But I don't regret canceling them. That unfinished mess they were left with? It's the perfect symbol of what they tried to build on me. Something shiny, convenient, useful, paid for by someone else. Now it just sits there. A half-dug patio. Weeds growing through it. Nothing finished. Just like our relationship. So yeah, it's over. But part of me still watches the camera feeds before I go to sleep. Just in case.